Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy BDELL. If you're new to this channel, hit that like button, hit the share button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Today, we're going to be talking about the spiritual implications and the afflictions that's going to be taking place on American soil, which is going to be the precursor to asymmetrical hybrid warfare. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get those notes out. You already know what time it is. Because what's taking place in the year of 2024 is going to set the tone and the frequency for the year of 2025. And I already told you that the year of 2025 is the year of completion and finality of the Roman occupational government. So one thing you got to understand is that America is basically a country that's conquered by the corporate economic imperialists that controls the Roman occupational government, which is the foundation of a Luciferian system, right? Because the country is being facilitated and the laws are being facilitated by corporate banksters and lawyers who control the draconian constitution because the laws are not written by congressmen. So that's basically the epitome of a Luciferian system. So that's why when you go to Revelations chapter 18:4, right, it tells you to come out of her. Her is basically Mystery Babylon. Mystery Babylon is basically the epitome of Lucifer in the geographical area of New York City, which was basically erected during the colonization process when you're talking about the Dutch master Jesuit slaveholders in the year of 1624. So with that being said, when you take 144,000 divided by 360, you get 400 years. So from 1624 to 2024, that is the end of the verification period of the 400-year curse, which leads up to the year of 2025, which is the year of finality of the Roman occupational government. So first we finna get into the metaphysics of understanding what Mystery Babylon is. America is basically the epitome of Mystery Babylon. Mystery Babylon, the great mother of harlots and abominations of earth, right? Which is basically in the geographical area of New York City where the United Nations is at, right? Which basically controls the whole infrastructure of the totalitarian regime of the deep state shadow government. Now, one thing you got to understand is that there isn't a diametrical difference between the painting of Lucifer of 1797 and the Statue of Liberty, right? Because as I told you before, the Dutch master slaveholders, who was also connected to the Jesuits, right, and the Khazarian Mafia, we're going to get into that. That landmass was colonized in the year of 1624, which is where you have New York City is at, right? Where the Statue of Liberty what they say. Now, this is also the monolithic ontological artifact in the statue of Lucifer. Now, as you can see at the bottom right here, where my cursor is, you see the apple. This is why they call it the Big Apple. And you also see the chains at the bottom of the feet, which is basically an emulation of the Statue of Liberty, right? So the Statue of Liberty is basically the statue of Lucifer. Because one thing you got to understand about when you get into the historical context and the neoclassical structures that was created by the architect named Frederick Augustine Beholding, he's basically the architect of the Statue of Liberty, right? And he got his concepts from the Dutch master slaveholders, which is also known as your so-called Ashkenazi Jewish people, right? Which are basically the Dutch Jews who lived in the Netherlands, right? So this is all coinciding with everything that is extracted from the Demotic text, because when you understand everything that coincides with the Jewish culture, they basically read from the Talmud and the Torah, which was extracted from the Demotic text, demonic rulership under democracy, under the deep state shadow government that's masquerading in the form of liberalism. That is basically the inception point of what controls this whole infrastructure of a Luciferian system in Babylonian culture under Mystery Babylon in the geographical area of New York City. So it's not a coincidence that when you look at the Ukrainian crest and the Khazarian Tamga, they're basically the emulation of the sigil of Lucifer, right? Because the Dutch master Jesuits who colonized the geographical landmass of America and colonized that geographical area of New York City where the Statue of Liberty is at, that's not a coincidence. So the Khazarian Tamga and the Ukrainian crest is the sigil of Lucifer, right? So now when you get into the scripture of what Manly P. Hall said, who was a 33rd degree Mason, he says, when the human race learns to read from the language of symbolism, a great veil will fall from the eyes of men. They shall then know the truth, and more than that, they shall realize that from the beginning of truth has been in the world unrecognized, save by a small and gradually increasing number appointed by the lords of dawn as ministers to the needs of human creatures struggling co-regain their consciousness of divinity. So that means that as you have the manipulation of the grid system, right, which I did in my last transmission, the cosmic energy grid that controls the configuration of the simulation, right? Because it basically puts an encryption over the planet because it works in tandem with the firmament when you go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 5, right? So the consciousness is going to be activated by way of the veil being lifted, which is basically the epitome of the seventh seal unlocking in your neurological faculties, right? So you're going to see this truth as we segue into the 9-year, which is the year of 2025. So like I said, it's not a coincidence that the Ukrainian crest and the Khazarian Tamga is basically the same emulation of the sigil of Lucifer, because symbolism is going to be their downfall, right? Symbolism is going to be their downfall because the Ukrainians, the Khazarian Tamgas, because when you look at the word Khazar is extracted from the metaphysical codex of the word nomad. Nomad means that you don't have a homeland. When you don't have a homeland, that puts you in alignment to colonization, right? Which was basically the inception point of the Dutch master Jesuits who colonized New York City in 1624. Fast forward into the year of 2024, right, which is the year of order and light. That is the end of the 400-year curse over the geographical landmass of America, which is also known as Mystery Babylon, right? Because these entities, these deep state shadow government factions are being controlled by the Black nobility. So this is why you have the Black nobility as you have the crest of Ukraine sits in the middle, right? So now when you go to Revelations 18:4, and I heard another voice from the heavens saying, come out of her. Who is her? Her is Mystery Babylon. Mystery Babylon is Lucifer, right? That is being controlled by the factions of a Luciferian system under a Roman occupational government that is being controlled by a draconian constitution, right? And my people, that yea, be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Because like I said, this is basically the end game system. This is the end of the purification period, right? So this is why you have in many different, afflictions that's going to be taking place on the planet. So it's not a coincidence that NASA put out a document that confirmed a plan for a mass extinction event in the year of 2025, right? Why is that? So this is why it's imperative to understand. Some of these slides is out of order. So that's why it's imperative to understand that when you read these documents, right, They're not coming out. It's not a coincidence that all the stuff is coming out. So the official NASA documents reveal a shocking plan for the mass extinction event in 2025 involving biological warfare, inside job, terror attacks, aimed collapsing civilization, discovering chilling details, and learn how to prepare for the worst in this eye-opening article. NASA's dark secret, the shocking truth behind the planned mass extinction event in 2025. Official NASA papers now in the public domain suggest a dark and dystopian future. These documents reveal that NASA has been secretly prepared for a cataclysmic event slated for 2025, a mass extinction event that threatens the very fabric of civilization. So, like I said, 2025 is basically the epitome of the 9 year. Nine is equated to finality and completion, right? Which is where you also have the activation of the non-ether, to where you start to think outside the box when you're talking about your neurological clock, which is the suprachiasmatic nucleus that extracts melanocytes, and those melanocytes activates the neuromelanin, which is the brain essential nervous system melanin. So that consciousness that is extracted from the melanocytes, which is basically an intelligence molecule, it activates the ethers. So when it activates the ethers, it activates the firmament and it manipulates the electrical cosmic energy grid system. So when you have a manipulation of the grid system, that creates an interface transition within the simulation. So what happens is, this is why, they have in Cyber Polygon, they having all these simulations. Why? They holding all these simulations is because they know that there's going to be a manipulation in the grid system, whether it's going to be from a CME or an EMP, right? So that's, up to you to have the mental fortitude to be able to delineate between the two. Now, as we get more into the article, the implications of this revelation are staggering. It suggests that a powerful institution trusted by millions is actively involved in a plan that could lead to a depopulation of Earth. This article dwells deep into the details, exposing the potential reality of this impending catastrophe. If you're reading this, you have the right to know the truth and prepare for what is coming. NASA's role in the global catastrophe. For decades, NASA has been viewed as I can't see that word, of a space exploration, innovation, scientific advancement. However, recently uncovered in the documents paint a different picture, a picture of a complicit plan and a plot so nefarious that it defies belief. These documents include a PowerPoint presentation by NASA's chief scientist, Dennis Bushnell, right? So this is a real publication, right? So is this the reason why you have, Berkshire Hathaway sells more of Bank of America stake? Warren Buffett sells more of Bank of American shares, reaping 982 million. So they share, they selling all their shares because they know what's going to be taking place. They know these afflictions is going to be taking place on American soil. So it tells you right here, just in, Warren Buffett sold another 980 million shares of Bank of America. Buffett now holds 278 million in cash, selling stocks like never before, including Apple. He's getting ready for a crash, right? But you can only have a crash when you have a manipulation in the grid system, right? Because it's not going to be one of those things where the stock market is not going to be like, hey, you got 2 weeks, to get your cash out, and then we're going to, transmute over to a cashless society. No, in order to do that, you got to shut down the whole electrical grid system that works in tandem with Wall Street. So the stock market is only going to crash. The system is only going to crash if you have the electrical grid is going to crash. And then once that happens, that is going to be the segue into a totalitarian cybernetic dictatorship, right? That is going to be controlled by artificial intelligence, but that's a whole nother transmission we're going to get into later. So this is another reason why the DHS announces nearly 724 million in preparedness grants, right? What are they basically preparing for, right? So this is the foundation of asymmetrical hybrid warfare, which is a strategy that shifts the focus from the political, military, and economic aspects to one that's centered around technology. Like I said, they want to turn this system into a totalitarian cybernetic dictatorship. It uses non-military measures, data in the current case, to gain advantage over rivals. It is not data per se, but the range and the use to which it may be put that raise on red flag. So it's going to be a black swan event, right? So I have a video that basically coincides with everything that I'm basically talking about. So now, okay. So I'm going to show you this video here, and then we're going to get back to the presentation.
I told you it was coming. They've been talking about it and talking behind closed doors, so I need to give you some information. From Homeland Security, intel was put out only to law enforcement, not publicly. We are getting intel of a large-scale EMP attack from Russia in the upcoming weeks, so I don't know if this is legit intel or a false flag event. But regardless of what it is, it will be harmful and disruptive. Homeland Security has advised local law enforcement that an imminent attack is going to happen in the coming weeks, and they're saying the attack could shut down the entire grid of the United States. And we are to be on alert and get our priorities together before it happens on what our response would be and how to handle the situation without communication. When I tell you that I have a very bad gut feeling that something that we have never seen in our lifetime is going to happen extremely soon. If this information is not getting out, people will be blindsided. And I don't like people being in the dark. There should be full transparency. I mean, I'm already under investigation from the FBI. And so I'm trying to be more covert how I give you this information. I will say, just me being observant, I have seen a lot of military activity and movement. I don't know if any of your viewers have said anything like that, but I've seen a lot of helicopter movement, vehicle movement. Stay vigilant.
So it's not a coincidence that all these things is taking place. So the synchronicities are there. The receipts are receiving. But it's up to you to have the mental and the spiritual fortitude to decipher what's taking place during this time period. Because what's going to happen right before the election is going to set the tone and the frequency for the year of 2025, right? So, like I said, they're going to hit you with many different afflictions on the geographical landmass of America. They're going to hit you with many different afflictions on American soil. So, like I said, this is the personification of hybrid asymmetrical warfare. These are the tactics, right? So you're going to have the development of the act of usage in state and state affiliate media. Then you're going to have troll factories. Then you're going to have disinformation campaigns. Then you're going to have targeting societies worldwide as opposed to the focus of a specific region. Then you're going to have the use of big tech corporations to collect data, which, like I said, which is a form of a cybernetic dictatorship, which is a totalitarian government that's going to be controlled by the factions of the United Nations when they implement the CBDC, right? Then you're going to have targeted attacks as opponents of the regime, and then you're going to have officially aiding the weak and the corrupt governments. So all these things is connected to asymmetrical hybrid warfare that's going to be taking place on American soil. So all this is going to be facilitated and orchestrated by Russia, China, and Iran, who works in tandem with the Republic, which is basically the far right bureaucratic system of a totalitarian regime, right? So we finna get into that because that all coincides with the election and things of that nature. So, like I said, it's not a coincidence that you have Cyber Polygon. Cyber Polygon in 2024 is scheduled for September 10th and 11th. So they holding, training sessions, preparing for these so-called EMP attacks. Because like I said, I put out a video maybe 2 years ago telling you to understand the diametrical difference between an EMP and a CME. What these deep state shadow government factions, what they like to do, they know that the unity consciousness and the cosmic convergence of the 144,000 has the ability to manipulate the energy grid system by way of activating a certain frequency that's connected to the neurological consciousness. So when you have a consciousness raise up on the planet, that causes the Schumann resonance spike to vibrate at a higher frequency by going from 7.83 megahertz frequency to 13.13 megahertz frequency, which is the epitome of the queen mother seat of a matriarch that's connected to the Fibonacci sequence of nature. So when you have the frequency on the planet rising up by way of the neurological consciousness of the cosmic convergence, it can manipulate the grid system, right? Which produces a influx of coronal mass ejections, right? That activates our physiology, which is connected to a form of non-ether, right? Because that non-ether in those sun heat genes is going to be activated by the granulations and the prominences, right? So that's one side of it when you look at it from a metaphysical and spiritual component. And then you have another component that's going to be activated by the factions of the government to where they can dematerialize the grid system, where they collapse their own system to implement another system, which is a form of your so-called Great Reset, right? So, like I said, it's either an EMP or a CME, but it's up to you to delineate the two, right? Now, so all these things is basically in alignment. All these synchronicities is in alignment to what's going to be taking place in the year of 2025. So you have Chinese and you have CCP agents getting training from the United States government, right? Then you have the expansion of borders that is being orchestrated by who? The deep state shadow government, who controls the infrastructure of democracy and liberalism. So it tells you right here, breaking 150 billion US taxpayer dollars have been spent in government services and to support the 20 million illegal migrants in the country, according to a study from the Fair, right? So you got migrants coming to the country, right? Which puts you in alignment to what's taking place when you're talking about the Venezuelan gang called the Tren Aragua, whatever, however you say it, you know what I'm saying? But these, the Venezuelan gangs are basically deep state shadow government foot soldiers to where they're being used to implement a form of MK Ultra on the geographical landmass of America, which is squaring the circle, which is chaos and order. So they got to cause chaos within the simulation in order to get an order that's connected to their system of a new world order, which is a totalitarian system. So they're here for a reason, right? These are Manchurian candidates being activated. So that's why it's imperative to understand that when the grid goes down, you have to have your resources and your artillery in order, right? Have your resources in order, because these deep state shadow government factions, like these Venezuelan gangs, they're basically gonna, they're gonna militarize up. They're gonna create their own militarized groups, and they're gonna start attacking Americans on American soil, right? And they're getting the green light from the democratic organizations, right? Because I already told you that the inception of democracy comes from Babylonian culture, right? So it's not a coincidence that you have the exclusive. It tells you, all right, Venezuela empties prisons, sends violent criminals to the US border, says a DHS report, right? Not a coincidence. So this is where you're getting all these afflictions and all these implications that's taking place on the planet. Then Venezuelans shoot and kill 4 people, unalive 4 people on a CTA train, right? Then right here. So this is why you got to understand something. Shout out to Ani, who came up with these slides. So if you want to know who's who and what's what, and if you want to distinguish if you're dealing with a Venezuelan, if you don't know, these are the tattoos or you're supposed to be looking for, right? To know if you're at, in harm's way of these factions that's coming from the deep state shadow government. So, like I said, then when you look at the Sumerian numerical codex of gematria, Venezuela is equated to 666, right? Our God and train equates to 666, right? Which is the propagation of the sixth ether energy that's coming from Babylonian culture. Because as I was telling you before, look at the word democracy, krasi at the end, kratos, chronology. The god of Chronos is connected to Saturn. Saturn is basically the land of Nod. The land of Nod is connected to the factions of the deep state, who is also known as the Ukrainian mafia, right? Because these people are nomads, right? Ukrainian mafia, when you look at the Ukrainian crest, which is the Khazarian Tamga, which is the sigil of Lucifer. So you live in a Luciferian system being controlled by the Khazarians, right? Who is being controlled by the black nobility, right? That is the hidden hand that controls the black nobility. That controls the Khazarian mafia. So this is why you're having all these afflictions on the planet. So this is another thing to look at. Do not fall for the technology and the semantics of the material world, because the material world is basically the personification of the illusions that's propagated by the holographic system, right, of the energy extraction matrix. So when you look at the one-way flights from NYC are $49, do not fall for that. Because like I said, if the grid goes down, you got all these commercial flights in the air, the grid goes down, these planes are going down too, just like in the movie Leave the World Behind, right? It's another one. So like I said, you got many different things that's taking place. You got the SeaTac, airport officials, cyber attack, disrupt service. So like I said, be very diligent, stay vigilant, and be very meticulous of all these things, because like I said, we are living in a time where we're getting hit with hybrid asymmetrical warfare. They hitting us from all sides. You got the expansion of borders, you got the manipulation of the grid system, you got to worry about China, Iran, and Russia. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got all these things that's taking place on the planet. Then you got to worry about these entities when you got the CERN portal opening up. And you got to worry about all these entities that's taking up on the physiology of these entities that's being controlled by the deep state shadow government for MK Ultra purposes. So I'm going to show you a video of how these Venezuelans are basically controlling or taking over certain parts of America, in Chicago, in Colorado, and things of that nature.
Person with a dark 6124 South King Drive, color stuff, 32 Venezuelans are trespassing the building, showing guns in the courtyard, and they have motorcycles in the courtyard as well. Upstairs, well, there's still nothing further upstairs.
And also, if you ever notice, I think Chicago works. The state of Illinois is a Democratic state. So pay attention. Like I said, it's not a coincidence that you see all these alignments and these synchronicities that puts you in alignment to the fact that you know that the epitome of democracy leads up to chaos and order. They're causing chaos because they know that their time is up, right? It's the end of the Luciferian Babylonian system that is being ran by a Roman occupational government.
Yeah, you have to leave the software to the 6124 and staying for the migrants.
Okay, good.
All right, 10 4. There's another related around 310. We had multiple calls. First of the gun 6124 South King. Also came over to disturbance large gathering. To be 32 Venezuelans trespassing in the building property, showing guns in the courtyard. They have motorcycles in the doorway on stairwell still. And nothing further.
So, like I said, man, be very meticulous, especially if you live in a democratic state. All these afflictions, like I said, because one thing you got to understand about these afflictions that's taking place on the planet, physical destruction is facilitated by spiritual energy that's transmuted from the cosmos. So, whatever is happening in the physical takes place in the spiritual first. Because I told you, during that time of the solar eclipse, right? Now you have this new energy on the planet. And this new energy is reversing the polarity of a patrilineal system that is being controlled by a form of patriarchy. So the thing is, the patrilineal system is being controlled by the factions of the Roman occupational government, who is being controlled by entities that you can't see because they don't take corporeal form. There is being controlled by the archonic forces, but the archons don't want to give up the regime of this prison planet, right? So that means that these archons is going to take up on the physiology, these entities, these jinns, these demons or whatever, they're going to take up on the physiology of these sleeper cells, right? When you're talking about Venezuelans or whatever, these entities is going to take up on the physiology to keep the perpetual state of the illusion going because they got to cause chaos on the planet. So you're not just looking at asymmetrical warfare, you're looking at spiritual warfare, right? What takes place in the physical happens in the spiritual aspect first, right? Because they both go hand in hand. So all this stuff correlates, right? So be very meticulous, have that spiritual eye open, pay attention to everything around you, pay attention to these new, entities that's coming in, pay attention to these new factions of, immigrants that's coming in due to the expansion of borders. Pay attention to your surroundings. Don't be walking around oblivious and not knowing what's going on, right? We living in a time where you got to activate that supreme consciousness. You got to be conscious right now, awake of what's going on, because their system, like I said, is based on squaring the circle. Squaring the circle is order out of chaos. They got to cause chaos on the planet because now this is a time capsule, a bicentennial time capsule that was downtown in my city, and it's said to be open in July 4th of the year of 2176, right? But like I said, the end of the corporation, the end of the Roman occupational government that is controlled by the imperialists, it'll be over by then, right? So when you see numbers, when you understand the metaphysical codex of Freemasonry in the alphabetical sequence, when you see numbers, you see letters. And when you see letters, you see numbers, right? It's basically a mirror flip. So I broke this. This is a codex, basically. This is not an actual date. This is a codex, and I broke it down. So when you see the year of July the 4th, 2176, this is what you really see. It says right here, the year of 2176 is a Freemasonic alphabetical and numerical codex. Because one thing you got to understand is that B is a representation of the second letter of the alphabet. A is the first letter of the alphabet. G is the seventh letter of the alphabet. F is the sixth letter of the alphabet. So when you read the Freemasonic codex, right, B represents brothers. A represents Anu ordinance, which is in the year of order or light. G is a representation of God, which is basically their supreme architect. Then F is a representation of will free, which is a form of liberation, the original Moors. So when you see the year of 2176, you're basically saying, brothers, in the year of order and light, God, the supreme architect, will free the original Moors. Why? Because the year of 6,000, the 6,000 years basically ends in the year of 2024, because the inception of the colonization, where they created Mystery Babylon in New York City in 1624, right? 1624 to the year of 2024 is 400 years. So it's the end of the verification period that was facilitated by the age of Pisces under the lunar cycle, right? Because when you take 144,000 divided by 360, what do you get? You basically get 400 years, right? So this is the end of their system. So this is the year of light. 2024 is the karmic retribution. So you're looking at a transitional period. It's a transitional period by ending the Babylonian Roman occupational government, right? Because you can have a patrilineal system and a sun cycle, right? Because a sun cycle was all matrilineal that is being facilitated by a republic. So, like I said, when you see numbers like this, because this is a time capsule that was created by Freemasons and they put it downtown. So when you see the year of 2176, when you see time capsules or whatever in your city, you're not looking at an actual date. These are basically alphabetical sequences, right? That's connected to the Masonic alphabetical sequence in the numerical codex. So when you see the year of 2176, you're really saying, brothers, in the year of light, God, the supreme architect, will free the original Moors. The original Moors or the original Masons are your so-called indigenous people that's connected to the geographical landmass of America. I already broke that down when you go to the 1848 Supreme Court decision. It tells you that the original mound builders hold the title of America for 1 million square miles. 1 million square miles, that's 640 million acres of land, right? So, like I said, we're in the year of light. When you're in the year of light, this is why you having all these portals that are opening up, right? And that's why when you go to the book of Enoch, it tells you about the transitional period when you have portals basically opening up, right? Which creates a form of illumination all over the planet. Because we in the year of light, just like I said, these portals is bringing a new energy under the Venturi effect, which is a velocity of ether that manipulates the energy grid system, that manipulates the simulation, that manipulates the illusion that's connected to third density, right? So the planet is going through a transitional period. You're going from 3D to 5D, literally. So what happens when that happens, right? This is where you get into the metaphysical aspect when you're talking about your so-called extraterrestrials or whatever. This, because like I said, the cosmic energy of these portals opening up, it has a positive electrical frequency that has an ethereal energy. So just like the ringing of bells, bells have an ethereal energy, flutes have an ethereal energy, right? Because the octave vibration of those sounds and those frequencies basically manipulate the simulation and manipulates these entities that don't take corporeal form when you're talking about draconian entities. So expect to, hear more about draconians and things of that nature in the year of 2025. Why? Because, like I said, this system is being controlled by the liquid crystal polarization that creates the dualistic paradox of the matrix. So when you have the liquid crystal polarization being manipulated, what happens? These entities start to show themselves, right? They got to show themselves because they want to keep this system going. This system of illusion is the Lush form, which creates a form of a prison planet that extracts the microscopic energy of your physiology and they upload it into a neuromorphic cyber cloud. Because the Draconians, they are the ones who control this energy grid system, right? I already broke that down in the last transmission. You got to not read, but you got to watch the video, The Cosmic Energy Grid, right? So one thing, like I said, sound frequency radiates at different speeds, tempos, and these frequencies in this electrical matrix is basically third density. These waves, but these energy waves, these cosmic frequencies, because like I said, one thing you got to understand about everything on planet Earth, everything works in harmony. Everything has a biorhythm. And when everything has a biorhythm, it has a sound wave frequency to it, right? The universe, the heartbeat of planet Earth, the Schumann resonance spike, right? That produces an influx of gamma radiation. It has a tune and a frequency. You just can't hear it, right? Because the great majority of human beings on the planet, we are basically spiritually cut off due to the firmament that we're living in. When you go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 5, right? When you're talking about the firmament, we are spiritually cut off. We can't hear and see certain things. So the heartbeat of planet Earth has a tone and a frequency. It has an ephemeral energy. And its frequencies that's coming from the star Polaris, because we transition from the Draconian star constellation to the star Polaris, that puts us in alignment in the age of the true light. As I broke that down, that Freemasonic codex, the age of the true light is the age of Aquarius. So that electrical energy, these cosmic energies, have a radiant frequency, sound wave frequency that manipulates everything in third density, that manipulates the liquid crystal polarization. So high frequency notes like bells, this is why all the bells are basically missing on the planet. They redacted the great majority of all the bells because the bells contain an octave frequency that basically manipulates their physical structure, right? So we finna get in, I'm gonna show you a video because like I said, we at a time right now, spiritual warfare, right? This is all spiritual warfare that's taking place. So I'm gonna play this video by this elderly lady. She came across a video. So like I said, it's not a coincidence that all this stuff is basically happening because when you have Cyber Polygon having all these simulations to basically prepare for the grid going down, the grid is what controls the illusionary aspect that basically puts an encryption over the two physical eyes to where you're not able to activate the spiritual eye. So that's why in the year of 2025, which is the year of completion and finality, that's the 9-year. The 9-year is also the activation of the 9-ether. And 9-ether is equated to the 9-year of the 2025, which is the year of the serpent, the Kundalini serpent that resets the holographic brain, and it resets the system. I broke that down in the last transmission, but I'm just showing you how all this stuff is basically connected. Everything is connected.
And in here and sit down. Sit your ass down for this, okay? This is a doozy. Don't go nowhere. It's worth it, I promise. Okay, this is Dr. Adams. And Dr. Adams has been frolicking through the forest, miles from civilization, looking for this particular lost tribe. Now, the reason he looks so damn jacked up right here is because apparently he said he was captured and they infected him with something and he started doing this, but he wasn't in no pain. But that ain't the doozy. This is the doozy. So he set up a bunch of trail cams all over this forest, right? And mind you, he went by himself to do this shit. He set up a whole bunch of trail cams and he left. This fool come back, one of the trail cams missing, all hell done broke loose. Where's my shit? He finds it. And boy, you not gonna believe what was on it. This fool, it was a video, I can't show it. TikTok, I'm telling you, we don't get along like that. Okay, anytime I try to show a video, I get unoriginal content, all this other shit, so you gotta deal with it. Search it up on your damn own, okay? But this fool was running.
Like I said, you're dealing with spiritual warfare. So these entities, they're going to start to show themselves because you're having a manipulation in the grid system that causes an interface transition. That is basically a glitch within the holographic matrix system, right? So this is where you're going to have, time dilation. You're going to have deja vu and stuff like that. Everything is being, manipulated right now.
Not running, walking fast, in the dark, smashed the trail cam off the tree, y'all. and walked away. Now, something about this didn't look right to me. And I pride myself and my page on being honest. Like I know I talk about a lot of myths and legends and things like that because I believe that everything is possible. But the only thing that stuck out to me about this, and the doctor is he's swearing to God is real. It's not fake. He didn't doctor up shit, which you never know. But this motherfucker look like he got on a backwards hoodie. Let me back it up. Backwards hoodie. Now, I don't know. I don't know. They could be, I don't know. Somebody could be coming out, leaving shit out there for them, like how people do with Bigfoot. They have a gifting tree. They leave apples. They leave trinkets. Somebody could have left clothes. Okay. I ain't saying nothing else about it. That's it. What do you think? That motherfucker sure is ugly. And this Dr. Adams, I'm gonna do a little more digging on him. Okay, I'm not gonna call him a liar. But I am gonna say that this is kind of suspect. The whole hoodie thing. Tell me you've been leaving clothes out there. Have you been leaving clothes out there? For them things, people. What have you said? He said that they are far more advanced than Homo sapiens, which I don't have any clue what the fuck that means. But yeah, he said they very advanced. He found maps and all kinds of mathematical formulas written on paper. These beings are fucking intelligent. So, of course, they know how to put on a hoodie, but don't know how to put it on the right way. Check.
So, like I said, man, we living in that time right now. Things are starting going to reveal themselves, especially in the year 2025. So don't, it's not a coincidence. So remember that the Vatican put out a publication talking about don't be surprised when you embark upon spiritual apparitions and demons and things of that nature. So it's not a coincidence that they're basically preparing us for something. I think they put that out maybe like 4 months ago. Right? So now when we get into the theological context and we get into the metaphysics of it, right? When we get into the metaphysics of theological context, because like I said, one thing you got to understand, like the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, what did he say? He said, do not get rid of your Bibles, right? Because he's going to condemn the European nations with it, right? Because a lot of the things that's taking place on the planet right now, their timeline of eschatology is basically an emulation of what's taking place in modern day times. This is their timeline. This is their blueprint, right? So this is why you still got, do your diligent research when you read the Bible publication, right? But you got to read it from a metaphysical standpoint. You can't read the Bible like it's a children's book, right? It's, you know what I'm saying? It's a multi-dimensional book that has many different meanings because this book was basically extracted by colonizing many different cultures and coming up with one big publication. We all know that it's basically comprised of the Egyptian or the Kemetic Book of Life and the Kemetic Book of the Dead or the coming forth by day, right? So it tells you about the negative karma penalty, which is basically the personification of judgment. So when you go to the keys of Enoch, it tells you, I saw upon the planet 4 types, nemesis, converge, food shortage, deadly plague, wild beasts, and wars. And who are those wild beasts, right? So this is where you get into your cherubim or your draconian aspect, just like I was telling you, because they got to start to reveal themselves because they want to keep this illusion going. They want to keep this illusionary aspect of third density going because this is how they eat, right? This is basically their smorgasbord of extracting energy from humans, right? And they want to keep that illusion going. And it's going to get so bad for them to the point where they're going to have to show themselves because they're not ready to give up their seat of power. But you got to understand, we're going through a transitional period. Remember, I told you in the beginning of the video, right? Mystery Babylon is New York City. New York City was colonized by the Dutch master Jesuits in 1624. 1624 to the year of 2024, that's 400 years, right? Then you also, when you look at it from a metaphysical Freemasonic standpoint, the year of light is the year of 2024, because the year of 2024, when you read the Freemasonic Apocryphal Bible of 1813, the year 2024 is the year 6000. Now 2025 is the year of finality, which is the 9-year. So it's telling you about the karmic retribution that's going to be taking place in the years of 2025 to the year of 2026, right? So now when you go to Genesis, right, chapters 41, 27, it tells you about economic wealth, dematerializing. You're talking about the crashing of the money system. You got the 12 pillars of light. Then you have the world war from the east, the return of the ancient gods. Then you have the magnetic pole shift, civil war, a star in the east, fallen angels, which are the cherubim, archonic forces, right? When you're talking about the draconian reptilian, whatever you want to call them, extraterrestrials. And then you have the red star Kachina, which is basically the great purification period. And that great purification period is going to cause scarcity of food, water, money, shelter, and safety. So that happens in between the years of 2021 to the year of 2027, which is basically the 7 thunders being activated. So now, when you go to Joel chapter 2, verse 21, fear not, O land. That land is basically your personification of the Midwest of Mount Zion. Be glad and rejoice for the Lord. Who is the true Lord? The true Lord is Thoth, who is Melchizedek, right? Will do signs and wonders of great things. And those signs and wonders, where you're going to have a time period in the year of 2025 where you're going to have 48 hours of daytime. There won't be no nighttime. You're going to have intrinsic influx of gamma radiation that's pouring down from the star Polaris that's going to manipulate the simulation in the year of 2025. Then you're going to have the Holy Pyramid in Florida turned on. So not just in Florida, you're going to have pyramids being turned on, because the pyramids have a positive electrical frequency that works in tandem with the space-time continuum, which manipulates the grid system. Then you're going to have the appearance of Mercatus. The light body comes down. Then you have the exodus of holy cities, sun and moon, star basically darkened, which is basically your personification of 10 days of darkness, 90 days of darkness. But, even when you look at that whole aspect, that can be a metaphysical context of talking about being able to use 90% of your brain, which is basically right knowledge. So then you got the 12 pillars of light, appearance of the holy cities. When you're talking about the crystal city, then you got the Orion star in the east, attuned with the light body. Orion star disappeared, and then you have the Holy Pyramid on fire in Colorado. So this also coincides with Zechariah 14:8, and it says that, and it shall be in that day, which is basically a form of judgment and notice in the years from 2024 to the year 2025. So living waters, which is your spiritual breath, your life force, manna, ether, shall go from Jerusalem, right? Which is the geographical area of the United States. So all this stuff is acclimated to the theological context when you look at it from a metaphysical standpoint. This also coincides with the money system. So like I said, it's not a coincidence. You got Warren Buffett and all these people taking their shares out of the Bank of America. All this is basically in alignment, right? Warren Buffett sells more of Bank of America shares, reaping $982 million. Buffett now holds $278 million in cash. He's getting ready for a crash. Now we fast forward to this theological publication right? Genesis 47:15, the money will fall and be destroyed, right? And when money fell in the land of Egypt, which is basically a nomenclature title for America, and in the land of Canaan. The land of Canaan is also the land of DC or NYC or Mystery Babylon. And all the Egyptians, so-called indigenous black people, Americans, or the indigenous Mers, came unto Joseph and said, give us, right? Which is give us bread. Bread is prana, right? Mana, dew, spiritual nourishment. So for why we die in thy presence for the love of money. So that means that money is going to be destroyed in between the years of 2024 and the year 2025. Like I said, because the year of 2025 is the year of completion, the completion of the Roman occupational government that is being controlled by the Canaanites, who are being controlled by black nobility being controlled by archonic forces, right? So it tells you right here, the money will perish and gosh. Hold on for a second. It tells you right here, the money will perish and cannot buy God's gifts, right? But Peter said unto him in Acts 8:20, money will perish with thee because thou hast thought. When you see the word that in the Bible, it means thove, right? Especially when it's in italics. So because thou, what you talking about, the Gentile, Esau, the Canaanite, right? So now this is where you get into the whole aspect of the grid and everything going down, Americans being attacked on American soil. So when you go to Daniel 11:42, Gog and Magog shall come and American shall not escape. So it says right here verbatim, he shall stretch forth his hand. That hand is basically the personification of the political and the military power. So Gog and Magog is also the personification of the Gentiles, which is China and Russia, right? So whatever basically happens is going to happen in between the year of 2025 and the year of 2026. So whatever's supposed to happen on American soil has got to happen because that's going to be the precursor to a form of liberation by giving the land back to the matriarch. So also upon the countries of America, the land of Egypt, which is America, shall not escape. Gog and Magog will control America's gold, silver, and money. Daniel chapter 11, verse 43. Gog and Magog, Gentiles in Russia and China, but he shall have power over the treasures of gold, which is going to have the implementation of the CBDC, right? So that's control over the money system after the grid shuts down, right? Which is going to turn it into a cybernetic dictatorship. Then you're going to have the dragons and the Carmonians, which is basically Iranians, waging war on American soil, right? So the dragons and the Carmonians are basically Iran and China, right? So that's when you go to the fourth book of Ezra 15. So you're going to have the machines of wars. Then you're going to have sounds and missiles of bombs, Americans, being infiltrated from the inside out, right? So all this stuff that's taking place right now is not a coincidence, right? So like I said, you got to read the Bible from a metaphysical standpoint. For those who are stuck in religion and, stuck in monotheism, if you can't get out of the Bible and that's the only publication that you believe in, at least read the publication with with some spiritual fortitude. At least read it, from a metaphysical eye. Don't read it like your regular, Christian would read it. So it's telling you right here, in my opinion, it says right here bad, 2025. It may not be a presidential election. And the reason I say that is because, like I said, you can have a patrilineal system and a matriarch, because a matriarch is controlled by the sun cycle. Patriarchy is controlled by the lunar cycle. The lunar cycle is phased out because the lunar cycle is what controls the holographic illusion of the simulation. We're in the age of the true light. The true light eliminates the illusion, right? So you can't have patriarchy and democracy in a republic. So like I said, it's not, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be an election. I could be wrong, you know what I'm saying? But when you look at it from a rational standpoint, that makes more sense because how they work with their factions in government is all being controlled by the celestial bodies and astrological alignments, right? So for those coming in, I'm gonna give a brief synopsis about what I was talking about. Because as I was telling you before, America is basically a country that's basically conquered by corporate economic imperialists that basically controls a Roman occupational government that controls the Luciferian system. So the Luciferian system was being facilitated by way of colonization in 1624 when the Dutch master Khazarians, they infiltrated that landmass and created Mystery Babylon, which is also known as New York City, where you have the Statue of Liberty. But the Statue of Liberty is actually the monolithic structure of the neoclassical structure of Lucifer, right? So when you look at the ontological artifact of the painting of Lucifer, it's basically an emulation of the Statue of Liberty, right? The Statue of Liberty, you see the apple at the bottom of Lucifer's feet, right? That's why they call New York City the Big Apple. Then you also have the chains. And then you also see the crown at the top, the seven crown that sits on the Statue of Liberty's head. So that's why it's imperative to understand that, the inception of where the Babylonian culture basically infiltrated the land masses of America and created, these ecclesiastical laws and everything that was being controlled by Black nobility and things of that nature. So also, like I said, the Dutch masters who infiltrated that landmass in 1624, right? 1624 is it's a prevalent number because 1624 to the year 2024, that's the end of the 400-year curse of ancient Babylon that is being controlled by Lucifer. So Lucifer, when you look at the Ukrainian crest and the Khazarian Tamga, it's an emulation of the sigil of Lucifer. Not a coincidence, right? Because the sigil of Lucifer works in conjunction with the Ukrainian crest because the Ukrainians are being controlled by Black nobility. So that's why you see the Black nobility sigil behind the Ukrainian crest, right? So that's why when you go to Revelations 18:4, it tells you, come out of her. Her is Mystery Babylon, which is Lucifer, right? Because that's where the home of the United Nations is at. It's in New York City. So it's not a coincidence that you have all these afflictions on the planet that's taking place. You got NASA documents confirm a planned mass extinction event in the year of 2025. They got to hit you with many different forms of hybrid asymmetrical warfare because they know that their time is up, right? This is why they having preparedness grants. You got, Warren Buffett preparing for a crash. Something's going to take place, but it has to happen this year because whatever's supposed to happen this year is going to set the tone and the frequency for the year of 2025, right? This is why Cyber Polygon is holding all these simulations for when the energy grid goes out, right? I already broke that down, the cosmic energy grid, in my last transmission. Then you got the expansion of borders. They're going to hit you with many different Black Swan events and many different afflictions on the planet because, like I said, the expansion of borders, this is all being controlled by the deep state shadow government who was giving the green light to these immigrants to basically take Americans out, right, and to replace them. Right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that was basically my synopsis of, my whole transmission and my presentation. I had another video, but we're not going to get to it. All right. So now, what you got to understand is, as I was telling you before, is that, when you look at the whole infrastructure of a Luciferian system, we have reached the apex in the verification period of the end of the Roman occupational government that controls the factions of the political system. Because one thing you got to understand about voting is basically a industrial complex campaign, because the system is being facilitated by oligarchy. Because when the system is being controlled by oligarchy, that means that power doesn't care who it votes for, right? So there's no such thing as a left wing or a white or a right wing, right? There's no such thing as a left wing. There's no such thing as a left wing and a right wing. You're looking at a left lane and a right lane that has a one-way road. And that one-way road is going to lead you to a road of devastation, right? So like I said, when you look at the factions of the Democratic or the Republican Party, like I said, it is basically a oligarchy monarchy system. They have one agenda. Now, one road might be the fast lane. The other road might be the slow lane, but they still have one goal. They have one destination. And that destination is destruction over humanity and destruction over the indigenous people, to where they don't reap the benefits of the restoration of the matriarch, right? So that's why I said, America is basically a country that is conquered by corporate imperialists, right? We live in an oligarchy system, so your vote really doesn't matter. So when you participate in fraud, you can't claim injury to the system. So when you participate in their fraudulent system, you're basically giving them more time to control the simulation, right? So this is why I told you in Revelations 18:4, it says, come out of her. Come out of her is basically the personification of detachment. Detach yourself from the system, right? Because as we segue into the year of 2025, which is the year of completion, that is the completion of the Roman occupational government under the lunar cycle. So the matrilineal system of the matriarchal forces of nature has to take back the planet. So nature is going to take back the planet regardless, whether if you're in alignment with nature or not. Nature is going to take its course regardless if you vote or not. So, but there's a karmic, implication that comes a part of that, right? Because like I said, planet Earth is a living entity. And planet Earth can sense the vibrational consciousness in the unconscious. Planet Earth knows who's right, who's basically right for the planet. So that's why I said this is connected to the prophecy of the Red Star Kachina, which is basically your personification of the Great Purification period. So that means that planet Earth has to purify itself by way of nature. So it's basically going to extract anything that's basically detrimental to the planet. So if you're connected to the system, you're going to fall with the system, right? So that's why I said, come out of her, come out of this Luciferian system, or you're going to fall with it. And it has to fall because it's part of the timeline of eschatology. So when you understand the eschatological timeline that is being connected to the publication of the Bible, you will know that, they already know that their end has a verification period. They time is up, right? They time is up. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get this video out there. Thanks for watching this video. End of transmission.
10:14.
We will put an end to this madness.
It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time. since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. Karma's gonna get to you and then you'll have a chariot with only one less friend. Now I had distant folks that are looking to my eyes to understand the wisdom he's given and his wealth from the skies. So thanks for this meal that I'm about to receive, and thank you for my health and all the good memories. Thanks for the courage taking on another day when I used to not believe, but now I know about grace. Stay away from the fire cause the flames does burn. Go with your gut feeling, when it's wrong you learn. For every one step I take, the Lord takes two. And do unto others if you want it done unto you. It's me again, God, I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. It's me again, God, I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. This a completion, the selfish proto-Grecian, Amerindian, Phoenician. I'm the last of the Mohicans, the bastard of the land, the pen, melanin, accretion. And we just trying to get back to the fact that we was kings and queens of a land before the avalanche seized it. I live on Turtle Island with the rest of the diseased. Better than the medicine for 7 different treatments. Niggas try to ride away but end up getting seasick. The sleep can feel my words like Braille and they're awakened with the penmanship of Hindu script written in them vacant monastery honor. Honorary payments to the prototype. Tomorrow's only a day away, but nothing happens overnight. The fuck's wrong with going left when you know it's right? Biting off more than I can chew, that's an overbite. Black on black crime is like watching 2 soldiers fight when all along they was on the same page. History. It's me again, God, I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. It's me again, God, I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land.